Shalom, shalom. I want to talk about intentions. And I want to tell you that intentions really do matter. They're the foundation of everything. And especially in today's world, you look at people, people that either that you know or that are higher up and in different places, different positions, government or whatever the position is. And a lot of times you see people mask as if they have good intentions, but really they have more greedy intentions for their own self and what their desires are to achieve in life, status, money, whatever it might be. And in the end of the day, we think sometimes you see people getting ahead, but they're not going to get ahead for so long because the foundation of what we build our future on is with the intentions that we do. Because if people have noble intentions, you're building your life slowly but surely on a very strong foundation that is indestructible. Because when you have good for good intentions, it eventually shows through and people will see that and they'll be understood and God will bless your efforts. But when people have selfish motives for doing things and they end up having to lie or manipulate, it's obvious. It comes across. It's not something they can hide forever. And they're building their future on flimsy foundation that eventually is going to crumble beneath them. We see this time and time again in history. We're talking about the story of Purim now. We can really contrast the personalities of Haman, and if you look at Mordecai and Esther, Esther specifically, I want to talk about, but Mordecai as well. And you see that Haman was really obsessed with himself. He was narcissistic. He had just about everything, and it wasn't enough for him just seeing one measly Jew in his eyes. Obviously, Mordecai was a great person, but to him, he was not. And to see that person wouldn't bow to him, and it's not even something he noticed. People had to bring it to his attention. And he let that destroy everything. And that greed and that, uh, you know, inability to just let something go because he had to have everything destroyed him in the end, if you watch the story unfold. And if you look at Queen Esther, right? Oh, all she wanted, she was an orphan. She only wanted to belong. She didn't care about herself and her glory. She didn't want to be chosen as a queen. She didn't want to be in that position, despite the fact that she had a very, very comfortable life that many, many people would have killed for in those days. To become the queen and to have all that, it was a glorious existence there in Persia. And she didn't want any of it. All she wanted to be was a part of her people. All she wanted to be was someone connected because she grew up as an orphan and she loved her people. And you can see how much she loved and cared for her people in the fact that she had when they were going to be destroyed because of the plans of Haman, she fasted for 3 days. She told Mordecai to have the people fast for her, which caused she cared for them and caused them to care for her, and it caused the whole nation to come together, which was all she wanted to be in a nation together with that nation, which she never got to, unfortunately. And that's what she asked for. She wasn't asking for anything. She was selfless. As we see when before she was being brought to the king, they said anything you want, you can have, and she didn't ask for anything. And then when she came before King Ahasuerus twice, when she invited him to a party, he's like, whatever you want, Queen Esther, I will give you until half of the kingdom I will give you. And many people would have just forgotten what they came for and just asked for God knows what. I don't know, whatever matters to people in the material world. And she didn't lose sight for 1 second. She kept this plan. She only wanted to save her people. She only wanted to do good. And because of that, it's really ironic because Haman, all he wanted was fame and fortune and to build this legacy for himself and to build a name for himself that everybody would admire and everybody would bow down to. And that's what he wanted. And what happens to him in the end? He ends up being hung and his 10 children hung and known forevermore as evil. As evil. He's gone down in history as evil. And people mention his name and we shout and scream and hiss. And that is exact opposite of what he wanted. And Esther, all she wanted was she didn't want fame and fortune. All she wanted was to be remembered, not to be forgotten. She just asked, "Don't forget me." And she's not forgotten. She's seen as the hero, the heroine. She saved the Jewish nation. Because of her, we exist in large part today. Um, because she knew how to get her act together, the nation's act together, and to understand that to solve the problem, you had to lech knos kol hayudim, to gather them together to become one people. And she's remembered for all time and celebrated and admired and looked up to. And I think, I was listening to a class given by Rabbi Ari Khan, and he compares Esther Hamalka to the Kohen Gadol. And she really is like the Kohen Gadol, as we are told in this week's Parsha, that the Kohen had to wear, as you see, this Choshen. See this? I have a little replica of it on my necklace. Why I love it so much is because it's the 12 tribes, and you see them together. And he had to wear this on his chest, on his heart, to keep the nation in his heart. And then all the tribes were engraved on this shoham stone on his shoulders. He had to carry the burden of them on his shoulders, and the sentence and what's going to be their future in his heart always. And that's what she did. She carried the burden of their existence, of their thriving in her heart and on her shoulders. And she made she made a future for them. And she made decrees that last forevermore. This is what we do. We have commandments on Purim to do the things that she commanded us to do. And that's how powerful, that's how close to God she became and she was that the things that came out of her mouth became commandments. They became mitzvot that we all take very seriously. And I think that the message is so, so clear. When you go about your life, people are always constantly worried. We're self-absorbed, we're worried about ourselves. We think if we don't worry about ourselves, who's going to worry about us? But you don't. You don't. If you do the right thing and you worry about the people around you, God will take care of you in the end of the day. And that's a very, very powerful message. All that we need to do is care about one another, and then we can have a healthy environment. We can have a healthy kehila, a healthy community, a healthy people, and we can thrive in the end. And this is a message that Purim makes abundantly clear, and in this week's Parsha, that the clothing of the Kohen Gadol makes abundantly clear. If you keep the whole nation in mind, and you do for the other, the future will look bright, just as bright as these shiny stones. And with that, I just want to wish you all a Shabbat Shalom, a Purim Sameach, L'chaim Tovim V'Arugim. Can't wait. See you later.